simplement une histoire. Comme j'ai commencé à Paris de rencontrer du monde dans les années, bon, le fin des années 70. Alors c'est appelé, mes histoires sont vraies, c'est appelé Tutus in Paris. Tutus pour les ballerinas. I came to live in Paris without social connections when I was about 30. Don't ask me how old I am today. In 1977, you can work it out mathematically. After having lived 6 months in Mexico, I quickly realized that walking into an art gallery opening, a vernissage, in Saint-Germain, the art district on the left bank, around 7 o'clock, was the best place to meet interesting people. One Wednesday evening, I picked a known Russian artist's vernissage, dressed up, and off I strode, a little nervous, as I knew almost no one in the city of culture, Paris, the city of lights. I knew very little about the Parisian art world, but loved the Impressionists and the Fauves. Mikhail Shemiakin was a professional artist and de rigueur. The gallery was packed with branché guests, so one could hardly view his paintings on the walls. It was a place just to be seen and not heard. Tired and alone in a crowd of posh people, I sat down on a sofa next to a distinguished, much older-looking gentleman who was bored and detached. "Quelle est votre opinion des peintures?" I inquired innocently. He glanced at me sideways, uninterested, until he heard my obvious English accent. Speaking English, he suddenly perked up, explaining he had lived many years in London in the 1950s as Baron's photographic assistant. Baron, who died in 1965, had been the famous London Society photographer. Excited to be speaking English again, he rose and took me gauche, Juliana, in hand, introducing me to his Russian friend, the artist that tout Paris was talking about. He proudly introduced himself as Zhenya from Moscow, a Russian émigré. Never had I met one before, nor, for that matter, since. I confided in him I had just arrived in Paris and was living in the Rue Campagne Première in Montparnasse. I was thus informed that not only had scenes from the famous film Au bout du souffle been shot, but also Modigliani had committed suicide by throwing himself out of his studio window. Zhenya, of course, was knowledgeable in the arts. Being my protector for the evening, and as it was early, he suggested we went to pay a visit to his friend, the German fashion photographer Willy Mewald, at his studio in the Rue de la Grande Chaumière, who hosted salons on Wednesdays and Saturday nights. He went to make a phone call to ask if the salon was on, asking the person who answered if it was on. Mais oui, was the answer. So off we went, taking a taxi and chatting about art and photography, which I knew nothing about. I had come to Paris to be educated, and educated I was over the coming years. We arrived at Willy's studio, hidden at the end of a secret garden, tucked away in a street famous for its art school, which was to become my second home on the boulevard of Montparnasse. Zhenya opened the unlocked door and we entered an exciting private world. There was an elderly, distinguished Willy on the couch in an original artist atelier with a high glass roof. his black and white portraits of famous artists such as Chagall, Picasso and Braque adorning the walls, surrounded by Spanish transvestites wearing shocking pink tutus. Well, not all of them. Some had long evening dresses in garish colours, others dressed in bling and little else, wearing wigs and very heavy makeup. Everyone was laughing. Oh, I've almost finished, really.
Oui, c'est vrai.
Hola! Everyone was laughing and joined in and said, Hola, ¿qué tal? The outrageous party guests were all shapes and sizes and looked fabulous, having fun. Genia and I realized we had gate-crashed a private birthday party for a cabaret singer called Carla, who was presented with a big cake full of sparklers on the top. Willie rose to greet me in English with a heavy, guttural German accent. Genia, you've come on the wrong night. Bring Gilliana on a Saturday, I think she would prefer. He nodded and smiled knowingly, a charming man who was later to be rediscovered at the end of his long life as a talented black and white portrait and fashion photographer. Genia suggested we leave as he had just been propositioned by one of the guests on his way to the bathroom. He assured me women were his preference. We left and he accompanied me back to my abode, but he hovered at the street door, waiting to be invited in for who knows what. I thanked him for the evening and agreed to meet him on the Saturday salon and made certain he understood there would be no relationship. Willie Méval, the fashion photographer of Dior's new look, was the catalyst for my new life in Paris, although he never knew how his Saturday salons would educate and give me the self-confidence I lacked, leading me to find my new identity. Wow.